Take my gun. Don't nibble on the barrel. Pull the trigger. Go ahead, pal. Be my guest. Go ahead if you're serious. This house ain't been clean good since my first wife died. And nobody crazy enough to marry you. So what you gonna do? It must be close to 40 acres out there. I reckon with the right kind of help, you make yourself a handsome living just farming cotton. Well, we will make one world, and we will bring them into a new age, whether they like it or not.
I'd known that the storm was gonna stir them snakes up. I picked another place to cross.
Give you a tip. You want to make some money here? Use your white voice.
My white voice?
I'm not talking about Will Smith's wife, like this young blood.
I sit here as the great-grandson of a former slave, Mary Brown, who was freed by the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863.
What if the man who made you believe in justice on screen had to fight for it every single day of his life? Danny Glover's story isn't just about Hollywood success. It's about a man who watched his grandmother defy a white overseer in 1915, declaring her children would never pick cotton.
I'm sitting here in front of this camera because Reese Mae Huntley was going to make sure with all her strength they were not going to impose limitations to her children's life. That's why I sit here.
But here's what will leave you speechless. Glover's own mother predicted his breakthrough role the exact day she died.
She said, Martin is going to be all right. She said, you're going to do a film in September, and that film is going to be, people are going to know you from that film.
And the final revelation about what he sacrificed for his beliefs? That will change everything you thought you knew. San Francisco, July 22, 1946.
Born and raised in San Francisco, and basically in San Francisco most of my life.
A boy was born at Stanford Hospital in the Western addition to two postal workers who had bigger dreams than anyone imagined. Carrie and James Glover weren't just delivering mail. They were actively fighting for civil rights through the NAACP. But young Danny had no idea that his family's defiance ran deeper than protest signs. His great-grandmother, Mary Brown, was freed by the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. But it was his grandmother, Reese Mae Huntley, who became the family legend. She was a midwife in rural Georgia, a woman who helped bring life into a world determined to crush it. When the white overseer came looking for her children to work the cotton fields, she stood her ground. My children don't work in the fields. When there's school, my children are in school.
My grandmother was those kids, Reese Mae. She said, my kids in school. When there's school, they don't pitch cotton. It turns around to my father, Mac Huntley. It says, you better tell your wife how to talk to white people.
The overseer turned to Danny's grandfather with a threat. You better teach your woman how to talk to white people. That woman's defiance echoed through generations. Her daughter, Carrie, became the first in the family to attend college, graduating from Payne College in Augusta, Georgia in 1942. She was supposed to teach for 1 year and return home. Instead, she migrated north to New York, found work, became politically active, and met James Glover at a rally to see Adam Clayton Powell Jr. There were two women walking together, one tall, one short. James, who had rickets as a child and stood shorter than most, told his friend, I'll take the tall one. They moved to San Francisco after World War II. James wanted Detroit, but Carrie insisted, this is God's country. She had no idea she was positioning her son at the epicenter of a cultural revolution.
He wanted to go to Detroit, and my mother said, he better find a job here right after the war. This is God's country.
The Glover family settled in the Sunnydale housing projects in southeast San Francisco. Danny, the oldest child, watched his mother transform their home into an activism hub.
My mother was the regional president of the National Council of Negro Women, so she was very active around my house.
His father served as secretary-treasurer of the local postal workers union. On their small television, young Danny witnessed history unfolding, the Montgomery bus boycott, the March on Washington. He didn't just see protesters, he saw his future.
I came up with young parents who were involved in movements.
But something else was happening inside Danny's mind. He struggled with dyslexia and epilepsy, conditions that made him feel awkward and diminished. Standing 6'4" with a learning disability, he felt like he didn't belong anywhere. Yet his parents never let him surrender to those limitations.
Both my parents, they had lived through the darkness of segregation. They knew all the things of lynchings and everything else. I saw them as my heroes.
By the time the family moved to the Haight-Ashbury district in the 1960s, Danny was a teenager, watching his neighborhood become ground zero for the counterculture. While thousands flooded Haight Street to witness the Summer of Love, Danny was absorbing something deeper, the collision of music, activism, and social change. Santana rehearsed nearby. The Grateful Dead lived in the neighborhood. Revolutionary ideas weren't abstract concepts. They were happening on his doorstep.
Place of the counterculture, different things were happening. So much change and activism, where actually Haight Street, there were so many cars going down Haight Street at one point in time.
Then came 1967. Danny enrolled at San Francisco State University and joined the Black Students Union. He had no intention of becoming an actor. He was going to be a city planner, maybe work in community development. But on one spring day in 1967, everything shifted. Amiri Baraka, the revolutionary poet formerly known as Leroy Jones, came to campus. The Black Student Union needed bodies for his radical theater project. Danny happened to be manning the office when Baraka walked in. "I want some of these so-called revolutionaries to be in these plays." Danny had never been on stage, never sang in a church choir, never even had a solo, but he went to the audition. He could barely get 2 words out from fear, yet he got the role anyway, not because of talent, but because hardly anyone else showed up.
Office that day, he came in and they said, "I want some of you so-called revolutionaries to be in these plays." I'd never been in a play before. I'd never been on stage. In fact, I'd never sang in the church choir. I never had, not even a solo, I went and something happened.
What happened next, Danny couldn't explain. Standing on stage, playing a revolutionary preacher in a play about Black liberation, something ignited inside him. He wasn't acting, he was channeling generations of rage, hope, and defiance that lived in his bloodline.
I did a play called Papa's Daughter, and that was me being the father of a young girl.
But acting had to wait. In 1968, San Francisco State erupted. Danny became part of the longest student strike in American history. 5 months of protests demanding the creation of the first school of ethnic studies in the nation.
We on strike as students at San Francisco State in 1968. It was a major strike.
Students were beaten, leaders were arrested, but they won. The Third World Liberation Front, joining Black, Hispanic, Asian, and progressive white students, forced the university to establish a college of ethnic studies. Danny graduated with a degree in Africana Studies. Then he went to work, not in Hollywood, but in San Francisco's mayor's office, doing community development for 6 years.
And then I came from there to San Francisco and worked in the mayor's office doing evaluative research for 6 years. About midway through, I figured this wasn't going to happen for me.
During those years, Danny trained quietly at the Black Actors Workshop of the American Conservatory Theater. He studied with Gene Shelton at the Shelton Actors Lab, but he wasn't chasing stardom. He was searching for a way to channel his activism through art. When he finally decided to pursue acting full-time, he resigned from his city job and committed completely. Then came the moment that would define his approach to acting forever. He discovered Athol Fugard's plays, works about apartheid South Africa that spoke to every injustice Danny had witnessed. In 1982, Danny took the lead role in the New York production of Master Harold and the Boys.
Things were happening. There was a kind of discourse around my house. So the anti-apartheid movement brought me to an extraordinary writer named Athol Fugard. Once I was in his play, his early plays, I knew at some point in time that this was the work that I wanted to do.
The play devastated audiences. Critics recognized something rare, an actor who wasn't performing, but testifying.
My father's, when I said legacy, my father's still here with me. It comes with that, and I'm a product of a very unique period in this country. I grew up in the civil rights movement. I grew up watching heroic people put their life on the line for something of value. And that affected me, however much it did as a child, certainly as I began to probably embody some of those ideals as a young adult.
Director Robert Benton saw the performance and immediately cast Danny in his 1984 film Places in the Heart, alongside Sally Field.
I can mend this
fence with no trouble at all right after breakfast, yeah?
Oh, that'd be fine.
The role was Moses Hadner, a Depression-era cotton picker in Texas. For Danny, it was more than a role. It was his gift to his grandfather, to his grandmother who refused to let her children pick cotton, to his mother who escaped the South for something better. But here's where the story becomes haunting. In April 1983, Danny's mother told him something strange. She'd visited a fortune teller who said, "You're going to do a film in September. That film is going to be about you. People are going to know you from that film." Danny received the Places in the Heart script a few weeks later. When he read the scene with the doxology, "Praise God from whom all blessings flow," he heard his grandmother's rural Georgia church. He heard the San Francisco church of his childhood.
I remember as I read that doxology, I remember hearing it as a kid in that rural church in Georgia when we went to Georgia on the farm. I remember hearing it at the church that we grew up in San Francisco.
He heard his own 17-year-old voice, believing he might become a preacher. He called his mother, excited about the script. She reminded him of the prediction. Then came the phone call that shattered everything. Danny won the role the same day, the exact same day, his mother died in a car accident.
She passed away on an automobile accident the very day that I got that role. The very day that they called me up and said, "The role is yours."
Danny never got to show her the film that was, as she predicted, about him. His father watched it instead. 6 months after the premiere, a stranger approached Danny who'd never heard this story. The stranger said simply, "You really loved your mother, didn't you? I could see it in your performance."
Said to me, maybe 6 months after the film, met me for the first time and said, "You know something, I saw Places in the Heart. You know, you really loved your mother, didn't you?"
Places in the Heart earned an Oscar nomination for Best Picture.
Of course you heard something. You heard me talking. Anyways, you ought to speak with her on account if she goes around spending
Well,
her
there's
money.
somebody out there.
Danny's performance as Moses, dignified, powerful, human, announced him as a major talent. But Hollywood wasn't sure what to do with a 6'4" black actor who chose roles for their political meeting. So Danny did something unexpected. In 1985, he took 3 wildly different roles. First, he played the violent, abusive Mister in Steven Spielberg's The Color Purple, opposite Whoopi Goldberg.
Stevie, ain't that razor sharpened yet? Get on out here and do me right now. Get on out here.
The performance was so convincing that his grandmother, who didn't know what movies were, saw the film and came out hopping mad. She made Danny find a switch so she could hit him with it. He knows he was raised better than to act like that.
My grandmother did not know what I did exactly, and she found out. They got her to see The Color Purple, and they said she came out of there hopping mad. She said, "I'm gonna get a switch after that boy. He know he was raised better than to act like that."
That same year, Danny chose to play the villain in Witness with Harrison Ford, a corrupt cop.
Do it, man. Washing my hands, man. What? Come on, man. Let's get out of here. Hold tight.
Deliberately showing his range. Then he played Mal in Silverado, fulfilling director Lawrence Kasdan's dream of putting a black hero in a Western without making it a black Western. But the role that would transform his career came from an unexpected place. Casting director Marianne Doherty sat in a Warner Brothers office with director Richard Donner discussing a new buddy cop film. They'd cast Mel Gibson as the suicidal cop Martin Riggs.
Sergeant Murtaugh. And she said, "What about Danny Glover?" Richard Donner said, "Yeah, but he's black." And she said, "Yeah, he's black, so what?"
That exchange changed everything. Roger Murtaugh wasn't written as a black character. He was just a cop who happened to be black. No stereotypes, no black cop tropes, just a family man counting days to retirement who gets partnered with a lunatic.
Okay, baby. I'm here. Okay, it's all right. Simple exchange.
Lethal Weapon exploded in 1987, becoming one of the highest-grossing films of the year. The chemistry between Gibson and Glover felt effortless. 2 actors who gave themselves to the material without ego. But their friendship didn't become what people expected. They were genuinely happy to see each other, respected each other deeply, but they weren't drinking buddies planning vacations together. The work bonded them. The mutual respect endured. That was enough.
and a mutual respect for each other, you know. But I mean, we're really genuinely always happy to see each other. But it doesn't mean that I hang out with Mel all the time or that we drinking buddies.
Between Lethal Weapon sequels in 1989, 1992, and 1998, Danny made choices that confused Hollywood executives. He starred in HBO's Mandela in 1987, earning an Emmy nomination for playing the imprisoned South African leader. He took the lead in the 1989 CBS miniseries Lonesome Dove, earning another Emmy nomination.
Get out of here.
I haven't had a drink of whiskey or slept in a bed in 10 days.
In 1990, he headlined Predator 2 and starred in Charles Burnett's To Sleep with Anger, winning the Independent Spirit Award for Best Male Lead. That last film represented everything Danny valued. It was a story about Black Los Angeles, about folklore and family, and the ghosts we carry. Hollywood barely noticed it. Danny didn't care. Some roles paid the bills, others fed his soul. He admitted openly that he did Gone Fishin' and Operation Dumbo Drop strictly for the money. Those paychecks funded his activism and allowed him to take smaller, meaningful roles. It was a transaction he accepted without shame. But in 1994, Danny and fellow actor Ben Guillory, whom he'd known since their San Francisco days when Ben's brother worked with the Grateful Dead, founded the Roby Theater Company in Los Angeles. Named after Paul Robeson, the company focused exclusively on theater by and about Black people. Danny was building infrastructure for the next generation. On April 16, 2010, Danny was arrested outside Sodexo headquarters in Maryland during a protest by Service Employees International Union workers. Police asked him to step back 3 times. He refused. They arrested him. He was given a citation and released. It wasn't his first arrest. It wouldn't be his last. Danny has been arrested multiple times during labor protests, anti-war demonstrations, and civil rights actions. For him, activism wasn't a hobby or a brand. It was who he was, the grandson of a woman who told an overseer her children wouldn't pick cotton. Then came the roles that reconnected him to his roots. In 2018, Danny starred in Boots Riley's Sorry to Bother You, a surreal satire about race and capitalism in Oakland.
Let me give you a tip. You want to make some money here? Use your white voice.
My white voice.
I'm not talking about Will Smith's wife, like this young blood.
In 2019, he appeared in The Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Brian is smoking a cigarette.
Okay.
In his office. Secretary is perched.
She pretty?
A poetic meditation on gentrification and displacement. Both films were made by young Bay Area filmmakers who grew up watching Danny and wanted him in their stories about home. Danny saw his younger self in these directors, artists using film to speak truth about community and justice.
Myself and whoever's in position to say that we have to fight for those kids, we have to fight for them and make sure there's a place for them, make sure that their hope goes.
He saw his city changing, becoming unaffordable, pushing out the people who made it magical. His parents couldn't afford to live in modern San Francisco. Neither could most of the people who built its culture. But Danny hasn't given up on the city. He still lives in the Haight-Ashbury, in the house his parents bought when he was 11. His partner lives in Atlanta now, so he splits his time. But San Francisco remains his foundation, the place that made him possible. Throughout his career, spanning over 200 roles, Danny has moved seamlessly between blockbusters and independent films, between playing heroes and villains, between Hollywood and the front lines of social movements. In 2001, he appeared in Wes Anderson's The Royal Tenenbaums.
It would probably be advantageous for your marital status to be legally established as single in light of the circumstances.
In 2004, he played Detective David Tapp in Saw.
I'd like to ask you a few questions about it. For your sake, I think it's best if we do it down at the station. Would you like to follow us there?
In 2006, he was in Dreamgirls.
Ladies, I've got the break of your lives. The great Jimmy Early is looking for some backup help tonight.
In 2007, he starred in Shooter.
My name is Colonel Isaac Johnson. You're a hard man to find.
I'm not hard enough.
Come a long way to see you. We have some business need your attention.
In 2009, he played President Thomas Wilson in Roland Emmerich's disaster epic 2012.
I was made aware of a situation so devastating that at first I refused to believe it.
In December 2019, he appeared in Jumanji: The Next Level.
What do you want, Milo?
Nice to see you too. I'd love to come in for a cup of coffee. Thanks for asking.
Alongside Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart. In 2023, he played Santa Claus in Disney Plus's The Naughty Nine.
But here's the thing about the naughty list. You can get off the list anytime you want.
But Hollywood recognition came slowly for his humanitarian work. Finally, on March 25, 2022, at age 75, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences presented Danny with the Jean Herschel Humanitarian Award.
Incredible things about receiving such an award here is what to say. There are many response speeches that I planned.
It honored decades of activism, his work as a UN Goodwill Ambassador, his UNICEF advocacy, his Trans-Africa Forum leadership, his support for workers' rights, his protests for justice. Danny stood on that stage knowing his grandmother would be proud, his mother too, all those ancestors who fought so their descendants could stand somewhere and be heard. As of 2025, Danny Glover's net worth is estimated at $40 million. He's been married twice, first to Asake Gomani from 1975 to 2000, with whom he has a daughter named Mandisa. He married Brazilian educator and activist Eliane Cavaleiro in 2009. They divorced in 2022. His daughter Mandisa, born January 5, 1976, works in film production. In one strange legal matter, Danny was among several investors defrauded by tech executive Shervin Cohen, who falsely claimed his company eCast was being acquired by Microsoft. Cohen was convicted and had defrauded Danny and others of $2.8 million. But financial setbacks never stopped Danny from showing up for the causes he believed in. He served on the boards of the Algebra Project, the Black AIDS Institute, and the Center for Economic and Policy Research. He co-founded Louverture Films in 2005, dedicated to producing films of historical relevance and social purpose. For years, he worked on securing funding for a film about Toussaint Louverture, the leader of the Haitian Revolution. Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez contributed $18 million in 2007, with an additional $9 million approved in 2008. As of 2015, the film still hadn't been made, but Danny hasn't stopped trying. He never stops trying. When asked about his legacy, he paused for a long moment. He remembered his teacher, Miss Lumber, from Beaumont, Texas, who taught primarily African-American kids in the federal housing projects. She told them, "I'm not simply in the business of making good students. I'm in the business of making good citizens." That's what Danny has been building his entire life. Not a filmography, but citizenship. Not fame, but change. His grandmother refused to let her children pick cotton. His mother made sure he understood what that defiance cost. And Danny has spent 78 years honoring that legacy, one role, one protest, one stand at a time, proving that no lie lasts forever and that the fight for justice never truly ends.